that makes my blood boil.
Ooh, I saw you. You just got hot right there. I loved it.
At the intersection of sports and entertainment stands this man. You know him from ESPN, from Fox Sports, and now from Bravo's Real Housewives of Atlanta. A sports broadcaster, a U.S. veteran, a reality television star, and now an author. There's probably not a frontier that he has not conquered. Big Dog, a little dog, welcome to my buddy, Mr. Multifaceted, Mike Hill.
Big dog, little dog.
You're a big dog all the way around.
Dog.
You have your fingers in everything. How do you do it?
Just try and stay busy, try and stay versatile because, you know, I've always told myself and I tell other people, it's like find a lot of hustles because sometimes your hustle gets canceled without you knowing. So if somebody tries to cancel one of your hustles, you can have 2 or 3 others. So I'm always trying to be versatile. I think that's one of the things that I enjoy the most when somebody describes me, is that he's versatile, that he can do a lot of different things in front of the camera and behind the scenes. So I just find time, you know. So, you know, I always tell people I have a 9 to 5 and I have a hustle. So my 9 to 5 right now is hosting on Foxhole, and my hustle is doing everything else that you described just now.
Listen, so we're filming this right after Father's Day. So for my sports people who might not know this, Mike Hill is a new reality television star, Real Housewives of Atlanta. He is the fiance of Cynthia Bailey, who's a supermodel entrepreneur. And then for my pop culture folks, you guys knew that, but for the sports part, you were an ESPN host, broadcaster, and now Fox Sports and Fox Soul. So I want to make sure I blend and mend those two worlds so people know exactly who you are. But you guys have a blended family, you and Cynthia. What was Father's Day like with your 2 daughters and then her daughter?
You know, what's crazy is like they left. So this is why Father's Day really doesn't mean anything for fathers. Like they were around for Mother's Day. Everybody was here. We had like a little cookout. You know, all the girls were here. Everybody enjoyed. They made breakfast in bed for Cynthia. Everything was cool. Father's Day comes around, and a week before Father's Day, everybody rolls out on me. So my oldest daughter went back to Maryland to go take care of some business so she can come back out here. Cynthia's daughter actually moved out a week prior to go, you know, to her new place, whatever, with her girlfriend, and then Cynthia left, but then she came back. So she did come back for her fiance for Father's Day. So it was nice. It actually ended up being pretty good. I've gone from having 6 people in the house, being in the house alone with 5 women, to come next week, I'll be by myself in this house all over again. So I'm going to enjoy that, to be quite honest with you, for a little while, but I know I'm going to miss him eventually.
Well, listen, you're the only man in the whole mix. How do you deal with all those women at every single turn, even on Real Housewives of Atlanta? I remember the episode where you had all your girlfriends, female friends rather. So you seem to be the only dude in the mix 99% of the time, Mike. What is that about?
Yeah, prayer. I got to pray. You know what I'm saying? Just keep God first and just know the Lord's going to take care of me and just direct my footsteps every step of the way. I don't know. You know, like I've always just like gotten along better with women when it comes to like female friends and whatnot. I do have male friends, obviously, but I never force myself on male friends, and I never force myself on female friends either. Don't get me wrong, but I just, you know, if somebody vibes with me, we have the same energy, then I'm gonna kick it with you. So when it comes to a guy, I'm not gonna be like, yo, how come we don't hang out? How come we don't do this? I'm not gonna do that. That's cool, you know what I'm saying? Like there's certain guys that were cool, but I got a certain set of guy friends. I got 7 guy friends that are like my friends, and I know they're gonna be my friends for life. And then I got friends that I associate with and hang out with, but doesn't necessarily mean I vibe with all the time when they around me when we kick it. So that's
I hope you got some guy friends, because you're getting married in a year. When is the wedding, by the way?
We get married in 4 months.
Wait, so is the wedding still on?
Yeah, for right now it's still on. It's with 10/10/2020 has always been the wedding date that we wanted to pick, because 10 plus 10 is 20. 2020 is perfect vision. We ain't perfect
vision.
Perfect for each other. But the thing is, with the coronavirus, it kind of threw a little things off. As a matter of fact, she's going back to Atlanta this weekend to talk to our wedding planner to kind of figure out, you know, what we need to do. But the deposits have been paid on the venue and all that type of stuff. So we haven't sent out a list of people that we're going to invite, because we don't know who we can invite. And the thing is, I just don't want people to get sick at my wedding. You know,
right?
So we want Cynthia to be the only person that day covering her face with the veil. You know?
Right.
So, but if everybody else has to wear a mask, and then, you know, you got older people there as well, we just don't want to take that chance. So we'll see. It's kind of playing about here right now.
Okay, because the reason I was asking about the wedding, because you were like, I don't really have any guy friends. I'm thinking you got to have some guy friends to stand up next to you at the altar when you take the hand.
I got enough of those.
Okay.
Like I said, I got 7. So, you know, she has bridesmaids. I'm definitely going to have enough groomsmen. So I got enough men that I know that I kick it with. It's not like I have a harem of women around me all the time. But I ain't a pimp no more. You know what I'm saying? I used to kick it. I used to have a little pass. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong when it comes to that. But at the same time, now that I'm engaged and I got my woman, you know, she knows all the women I know. Let's just say it that way.
Good job. I loved Cynthia when I was growing up. I've always thought she was so gorgeous, and obviously, like, I think that she's a great catch for you. I mean, I'm sure you're probably a good catch too. Who knows? But Cynthia, to me, is the prize. Every.
Hold on now, I'm the prize too. I'm a prize. I might not come with a red bow and a nice little box, but I'm a prize too. No, I'm just messing with you. Go ahead.
Well, no, listen, I like your confidence.
I have that confidence, right? Because the thing is, if you are with a queen, you better damn sure be a king. You know what I mean? So she is definitely a queen, and I feel like I'm a king. I'm ready because, you know, I'm pretty sure we'll get to it. But in the book, man, there was a lot of things I had to actually go through in order for me to grow up to be ready for somebody like Cynthia. But now that I have grown through all of my traumas in my past and all the things that kind of kept me from being a man, now that I've become this man that I am, I know I'm worthy of having somebody like Cynthia. So yeah, I consider myself a prize a little bit here.
Do you have to put on your armor to deal with all the criticisms that being a part of a celebrity couple brings? For example, you know, some people say, oh, you know, maybe Mike is just using Cynthia for, you know, his platform, and maybe Cynthia is using Mike so that she can, you know, have a better storyline. How do you respond to that kind of criticism when it comes to celebrity couples?
You know, I don't usually. I really, sometimes, for the most part, I'd say 97% of the time, I just don't respond. I just block. You know what I mean? I look at it, and I think having a sports background, you know, as well as I do, like having a sports background, sports fans are the biggest fanatics out there. And if you got an opinion about anybody from Kobe to Shaq to Michael Jordan, anybody, whatnot, people are going to just crowd your timeline with craziness. So you develop, and I've developed a thick skin over the years. But I will tell you, reality show fans are a little bit different than sports fans. They are a little bit different, and they'll come for you. So I've heard it all, you know, like I'm an opportunist. I've heard I was gay. I heard all that other stuff or whatever. So the thing is, like, when you know who you are, you don't really let it bother you. But then there are some days where you just have time. And I get really offended when they come for her, more so when they come for me. So if they coming for her, I'm more of a natural protector of the women in my life, my kids and my fiance, my mom, and everybody like that. So I'll kind of tag back, little punch back here and there now, but I try not to engage that much, and then eventually hit the block button and it's over with.
I see you going off on Twitter, and I love it, because sometimes public figures don't use their platforms to speak out as passionately about the issues that are important to them. So I applaud you on that, because there's a very fine line when you're working for corporate America and you're a public, you know, figure with your face too, between speaking your mind and toeing the line so that you don't upset the status quo. So again, kudos to you for doing that. And I did a reality television show years and years ago called 13 Fears Real. For me to perform well in anything, I have to have my sanity. And I remember the backlash and the, you know, just the awful things people would say. But I also remember the magic of television behind the scenes that people don't talk about. So what's the inside scoop that the layperson doesn't know about what happens behind the scenes of a reality television show?
Well, I think a lot of people think that, well, I can't speak for all reality shows. I just know this is the first time I've actually been around a reality show, to be quite honest with you, in all my years of broadcast television. And they do it differently, but they do a good job of putting people in real scenarios. They don't make up stuff. You know what I mean? They will have somebody call somebody or whatever and get together for a trip or an event or something like that, which obviously that's a little bit scripted in your own words, you know what I mean? So, but I always tell people that no reality show is full out 100% reality. It isn't. I mean, it's not 100% authentic or real, because if people were, I don't care who you are, you can be the greatest entertainer, you can be Jay-Z and Beyonce. If cameras follow Jay-Z and Beyonce 24/7, you get bored if you just show their real life. You know what I mean? The performances and all that type of stuff, maybe kicking it behind the scenes. You might see a couple of things that might be like, oh, wow, I know Beyonce was like that. I know Jay-Z was like that. But at the same time, if you follow them 24 hours a day, it would be boring. Everybody's life is really just that boring, to be quite honest. So there needs to be a little bit of an embellishment in order to get people excited. So people get turned up here and there. But the arguments, I will say, particularly on this show, the arguments, the love, everything else is pretty much authentic, is real, just kind of turned up a notch. That's the only thing I can say about it.
Are you guys going to have a spinoff? Can we look forward to the Mike and Cynthia spinoff 2021?
You know what? I got a nice little career, and I'm thankful for my career in front of the camera as far as being a broadcaster, and I'm gonna do acting and all that type of stuff. But reality show, I don't know. It's like, it's kind of invasive, and you know, I definitely support her as long as she's on the show. Whatever she wants to do, that's fine. But you know, if the opportunity is right, I'll say this, and it's the right type of spinoff, then we'll do it. But the problem that I have, and you brought up the trolls sometimes, is like, people don't want to see class on television. And that's one of the issues that I have, you know, with some of the reality show fans, especially Real Housewives of Atlanta fans, is when you see class, you see grace, and you see women on the air not calling each other bitches and, you know, all that stuff, and want to snatch somebody's wig off and degrading black women or whatever, you know, they call them boring. And I hate that. You know what I mean? Being classy isn't boring. Being graceful isn't boring. Having being a good role model for young ladies, that isn't boring. But we've gotten into a society where everybody wants to see that sensationalism. People want to see people fighting and arguing and yelling. That's
throwing wine at dinner on somebody's face.
Tables and things like that. You want to see, even on the news with everything that's going on, the peaceful protest, even though 85% of the stuff out there was peaceful. You didn't want to show that. You want to see the van being flipped over, the fires burning. You want to see the windows being the looting. You want to see all that type of stuff. That's what they show, because they know they're feeding the thirst of the viewers out there that want to see that craziness, that wildness or whatever. So that's the unfortunate part about reality shows. So I just hate it when people look at Cynthia, who has been doing an outstanding job for 10 plus years on a reality show, and being able to keep her dignity in a class. I got to give her credit for that.
Me too. That's a very hard lane to walk. So, and I don't envy her, and now I don't envy you. But what I do envy is your illustrious career in the world of sports. Now, I think I first noticed you when you were on ESPN about 7 years ago. Is that about right? About 7 years ago?
I left in 2013. So I've been here for 7 years. It'll be 7 years next month.
Despite the foundation, I just don't think he has what's inside that house right now.
How did you get your start in the world of sports broadcasting? What was your first job before ESPN, or what led you to ESPN?
Well, I was in the military for 6 years. I was in the Air Force, and I worked at the National Security Agency for the last 3 years. And then while I was in the Air Force, I was going to school, and I had an internship in the sports department. So like a year before I got out, I started sending out all these tapes trying to get jobs. I sent out 75 tapes, and I got 72 rejection letters.
Oh, Jesus.
Yep. And I got one, wasn't a rejection letter, but I got one call back from a lady that just wanted to tell me how bad my tape was. So that was 73 no-goes.
Hey, Mike, how bad was it?
It wasn't, well, you know, everybody's first tape. Your first, if you look back at your first audition tape.
Now, the Eagles always seem to get to the very, very end of the season and then choke right before it matters most.
You're like, damn, how did I even get in this business? You know, yeah, it was terrible. But it was, you know, at that time, it was good enough, I believe, to get myself a job because I worked hard enough to get it. And then I didn't hear back from one other person. And then I think the last person was this guy named Bob Borngesser, who was Bob Borngesser in Hagerstown. So 2 weeks before I got out of the military, I went and interviewed in Hagerstown, which was like 75 miles away. And on that day.
Wait, 75 miles away from your.
Where I was living, from where I was at Fort Meade, Maryland, in NSA.
Okay.
And so I was in Maryland. So it's 75 miles away. And 2 weeks before I was getting out, and it was the biggest snowstorm that Maryland has seen in years. And that was the day of my interview. But luckily, thank God, and this is why I know God is good, and he's always got my back and ordering my footsteps. I had a 4x4. So I was able to drive. I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning for my 9 o'clock interview, and I barely got there. So it took me 3.5 hours to actually get there, 75 miles. But I got there, and when I got there, he said, I didn't think you was gonna make it. I didn't think you was gonna show up. And I was like, there was nothing that was gonna stop me from showing up for this interview. And so did the interview, and I didn't hear anything for a while. And then the day I got out of the military, February 28th, 1995, that day I got out, discharged, and I went home and I was jobless and didn't have anything. I had turned down jobs in the private sector. I could have been making $85,000, $90,000 a year because I had a top secret clearance at 24 years old, but I turned all those down because I wanted to be in broadcasting. And then 2 hours after I got out of the military, I got a phone call from Bob Poindexter saying, hey, if you still want this job, it's yours. And I'm like, so I got started. So Hagerstown, Maryland, 1995 on February 28th, man, day I'll never forget. And he gave me an opportunity, and took me 6 months before I got my second job in Fresno. And from Fresno, went to Nashville, Nashville to New York to Dallas, and then ESPN, and now I'm at Fox.
So back in the day,
mm-hmm.
the whole, I guess, playbook was that you had to start off in a super small market to work your way up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that journalists and broadcasters still need to follow that playbook, or do you think that you can go straight from college to a bigger market by using tools like, the internet? We didn't really have that then.
Yeah.
Or do you think there's something worthy about kids going straight from college to a small market?
If you're starting off in journalism, is one thing. If you're starting off in entertainment is another. If you want to be your own entity, your own media personality, is totally different. But if you want to be a journalist, if you want to be on the news as a sportscaster, whatever, as an anchor, I think you should start off in smaller markets and work your way up. Because you don't want to start off and be in a network, and as good as you might be, you're still going to be green. Mm-hmm. And you're going to go up against, and you're going to be dealing with people that has a lot of experience and whatnot, and you're going to be seen by a lot of people. So you don't want to make your mistakes early on with people that are watching you, a lot of eyes on you, because once they see you that first time and you suck and you look bad, it might be hard to recover. So make your mistakes in the smaller markets and work your way up. Now, once again, we got all these different platforms like we're on right now, Zoom, we got Facebook Live, YouTube, all these other different entities where you can actually create something for yourself and create your own shows and create your own personality. And then you might be able to eventually sell it. So it's a different type of dynamic. So it kind of goes both ways.
What were some of the missteps that you made early on in your career when you were first starting off?
I wasn't patient enough. I would get somewhere, and as soon as I got there, I was like, okay, what's my next move? Instead of like the same thing I was just talking about, hey, let me just make my mistakes and grow. So some of the mistakes I made was just like, as soon as I got somewhere, I'm like, oh man, I'm in Hagerstown. I ain't gonna be here long. And even though it took me 75 tapes to get there, and it took me a year to get there, I was impatient because I got there, I got that first taste, and then when I got that taste, and then like I said, for 6 months, I got another job in Fresno. And when I was in Fresno, I was like, okay, ain't nothing to do here. I want to go to LA, but how can I get to LA? I already started sending tapes out a month after, and it took me about a year and a half, and I got my job in Nashville or whatever. But I just always wanted to continue to climb. I wasn't patient enough to make a lot of mistakes and grow and become better and learn from it. And also not listening to certain people or listening too much. Here's the thing. When you know who you are, go with that. Work with that. And don't let anybody else change who you are. Now, take constructive criticism to get better. But find a circle of people that you can trust and rely, that know your voice, that understand what you're committed to, and is going to steer you in the right way. They got people out there, I call them insultants, but they're consultants. They're consultants. But their job is to insult you.
To tear you down,
to tear you down, to find something wrong with you, because if they don't find anything wrong with you, they don't have a job. So their job is to insult you. So they're insulting. So you can't really rely too much on insulting. Some of them will try and help you or whatnot, give you some tips here and they're like slowing down or whatever. But I had people, hey, do you really have to have a mustache? One guy told me I was, one of the reasons I wasn't moving up because I was too ghetto, and we already got one of those, whatnot. So all that type of stuff. But it was my voice, and it was who I was. And if I would have stayed committed to it, I think I would have been even further along in my career. But also that you have to listen to certain people that you can trust, that's only trying to help you. So it's a balance.
How do you maneuver who's in your corner and who's trying to tear you down and who's trying to help you get better because their bottom line is affected by how well you perform. It's so convoluted. How do you navigate that space?
You figure out who cares about you, who really cares about you. And I'm gonna tell you right now, there are only a handful of people in this business that truly care about you. It's such a shame, Erica, that, you know, as journalists, as Black journalists, as media personalities, a Black media personality, you know, you can't trust a lot of people. Yeah. Because when you're moving up, there are people that are jealous of you. They really are. I hate to say it that way. They're jealous of you. And sometimes you look at them, you might be a little envious, but I'm the type of person that's always happy for somebody that moves up. Because when you move up, if I see you're my friend, I see you moving up, that motivates me to want to do better. So like, oh, I want what she has. I'm not envious of you, but I want to move up because I want, like, it's almost like a competition for me.
Right.
But there are other people same people that will see you moving up, that will try to snatch you down or try and hold you down. And those are the people that you have to watch out for. So just like your friends in life, you're gonna have a lot of associates. You're gonna know a lot of people in this world.
This is true.
Everybody ain't your friend. And everybody in this business don't care about you. They'll smile in your face and they'll tear you down. I'm not trying to scare anybody out there, but it's reality and it's the truth. And you've been through it, I've been through it, but after a while, you just realize who's for you and who isn't. And you just gotta, you know, keep the ones that you know have your best interests at heart.
To piggyback what you said about when someone else moves up, you're excited for them. I look at that and say, okay, well, if Mike moves up and we're working within the same company, then maybe that's my opportunity to slide into the position he just left. Or I say, oh, if someone who looks like me got hired at so-and-so network, that means that I have a chance to one day get hired there too. So I think that we have to start spinning that jealousy, as you said, differently and look at it as a positive and as a stepping stone for ourselves too, because they are.
Yeah, well, hopefully things will be changing with the state of the world now. Being Black is in, you know what I mean? Like, it's great. Ooh, we need more diversity now. Oh, hopefully that lasts more than just a year because, you know, they give you like a year and like, okay, well, enough of that. They're not talking about it anymore. Let's move on. And that's what we got to be careful of. When it comes to what's going on in the state of the world with social injustice and whatnot, people are aware and you have their attention. We have to do a great job of keeping that attention and making sure that we hold them down to what they're committed to doing or what they're saying they're committed to doing. But, you know, once again, we got to the point where as Black people sometimes, and I'm not just trying to, you know, say just make this all a Black-white thing, but this is a type of issue.
It's significant, yeah.
In media personalities, is that we as Black people feel like there are only so many opportunities out there.
Because honestly, though, Mike, that kind of is the truth. Like oftentimes when a company, whether it's in the sports world or corporate America, when they meet their quota for a Black person, I got my Black girl, I got my Black guy, I got my LGBT, Q person. That's kind of our reality though.
And it's wallpaper sometimes because they'll put them in a position on air. They'll put all these people on air. They'll say, okay, we got this Asian person, we got this Latino person, we got this Black person, Black man, Black female, or whatever. Let's put them all on air. But nobody's behind the scenes in the executive office making decisions. So when you put the Black voices on the air, if the person that did the hiring doesn't understand those Black voices, then those Black voices aren't going to move up because they don't understand it. They don't get it. That is why it's also important to have the Black voices and the Black faces, not just Black faces, but the Black voices in the executive offices as well to say, hey, what did he mean when he said that? What does she mean? Oh, we need to cover this story this way. Or, that doesn't have significance because, the Black man will say, no, that needs to be covered. This has significance in our community. What he's saying is what you need on the air right now. And I've been lucky enough to have a couple of those, what I call Oprahs, that have been executives, some Black, some white, that will have that voice that will speak up for our culture and allow me to be myself and whatnot. But yeah, going back to the whole thing, we have to get out of the mindset that there's only so much because, Erica, if I move up and I create my space and you push me and you support me and I grow and I become big and I get a following, guess what? I get power. When I get power, I have opportunities to demand changes and say, you know what? I think Erica's superb. I think she should move into this role. Oh, you know what? I'm this big dog. I'm on air and I'm looking into the corporate offices and I don't see anybody looking like me. I'm like, hey, y'all need to hire some black people around here. You need to hire some women in here. You know what I mean? All voices need to be heard and understood when it comes to true diversity. And once again, it can't just be a face. It can't just be wallpaper. And a lot of times we got wallpaper here and a bunch of shit behind it, and it ain't gonna work that way.
It's a word. Before we jump into sports, I have to go back and say thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. And since you are a veteran, how do you feel about the recent push to rename bases that have Confederate soldiers' names? How do you personally feel about that as someone who served our country?
Long overdue. Why? Here's the thing. The Confederacy lost. They were traitors. I don't understand how you can name a U.S. military base after a Confederate soldier when they lost. They were traitors. They traded. They were, against the United States of America. You know what I mean? Who does that? And why would you do that especially when it comes to them they fought for slavery. How can I be a black man in the military and I'm at a school named Robert E. Lee or a base that's named after Confederate soldier? Why would I do that? But here's the thing. We have grown up, and luckily we as black people, we have grown up and we've become more educated, because I'm thinking back when I was a kid, wow, some of my favorite things. I remember watching the Dukes of Hazzard, and that used to be one of my favorite shows.
Oh boy. And
they had the General Lee. I'm like, I wanted a General Lee. I had no idea. That's crazy.
Didn't know.
I had no idea. Bo and Luke Duke were two of my favorite characters or whatever. I mean, my dad had a watch that my mom bought him for Christmas, which she should have known better. They should have known better once again. It played Dixie, who in Alabama.
Mike, I was a majorette at UGA, but growing up, I was a baton twirler in my local baton studio. And I was a part of a baton twirling troupe called the Georgia's Dixie Dolls. My sister and I were the only little black girls in the Georgia's Dixie Dolls.
That's what I'm saying. We just didn't know any better. But so luckily we have become more educated and we're more aware, woke, whatever you want to call it or whatnot, to make these changes and say, you know what? Nah, it's not part of your heritage. I mean, understand that you're part of your heritage, but you know what? Here's the thing. So if we go to Germany right now, is it okay for some of those Germans over there to be throwing up the Nazi flag?
No.
That's part of their heritage. You know what I'm saying? Some of those people are direct descendants of Hitler.
Yeah.
So they can't put up, so why are we allowing people to put up the Confederate flags, whatnot, when it symbolizes such hatred and racism in this country, and the racist uses the flag for their hatred and their hate. So I don't understand.
COVID has changed everything about how we are operating, especially in our world, in the world of sports. I texted my best friend yesterday. I said, Renee, do you think that, no, I said, Renee, why are people pretending that we're going to have sports this year? And she said, well, because I think we are. So do you think, from the NBA's Orlando bubble strategy to the MLB, who seems to waffle every 24 hours on whatever the hell it is that they're doing, do you think we're actually going to have sports, spectator free or not, this calendar year?
I think the NBA is going to try it. They already kind of got the plan in place. They got enough players that don't make the max salaries that will be involved. That's the thing. A lot of NBA players, even though they got guaranteed contracts and they're making $8 million a year, they still need their money. You know what I mean? And missing them paychecks, that'll make them go out there and play.
Right.
So I think with the whole system that they have involved with them being in quarantine and putting them in that bubble for so many weeks or whatever, I think they'll have a season they'll try. And I think other leagues will take notice. Like the NFL is looking at what's happening with the NBA. But when you see so many players now, from the U.S. women's soccer team to college football players, like you get 15, 20 players at a time, unless they expand the rosters to 250 people on college football teams, I don't see how they're going to be able to do it, man, because you can start, but it might shut down. And if a team, you don't want to put on the injury report, COVID-19, you got half of your players with COVID. And then if they've been around the other players, then you got to monitor them and they got to be in quarantine. So What are you going to do? How do you make that work unless you put every team in some kind of bubble and make sure that they've been tested and you keep them away from everybody, including their parents? How do you do that?
I don't. I look at it as being an impossibility. And I don't even think that's me being pessimistic. I think that's just me being realistic, because there have been more than a handful of players at Power 5 football schools who have several players, tested COVID positive. And past the COVID positive test, when you look at the NBA, when you look at the MLB, do you look at the eventual champion if the seasons end up playing out? Will you look at those eventual champions as having an asterisk by their title?
And I don't think you put an asterisk by, because it's almost the same thing. Like in 1999,
the Spurs.
Yeah, the Spurs won the championship, strike shortened season. They played a 50-game, I believe, regular season. They won. There have been other seasons shortened by strikes or whatnot, or work stoppages or whatnot. You don't put an asterisk by it. You don't put asterisk by, like during the steroid era and all that type of stuff. Like it's an era. It happened. Did we see it? Yes, we saw it. We know what the circumstances were. But if they win a championship and everybody is playing under the same set of rules, how can you put an asterisk by it? People want to put an asterisk by the Houston Rockets 2 championships because Michael Jordan had retired.
Well, they got a point there, though, Mike. They got a point.
You know what I'm saying? But it's like, if Jordan would have been playing, y'all would have had. But see, you can't take away the thrill, the joy of a championship, somebody winning, holding up a trophy for doing the same things that the other teams had an opportunity to do. Now, do you put an asterisk by the Houston Astros for what they did?
Absolutely.
I think you do, because that's cheating in the World Series. You know what I mean? So I can understand. It's like the Black Sox scandal or whatnot. I think those type of things is when you could put an asterisk. But if everybody's playing by the same set of rules and it's fair, no matter how many regular season games you play, no matter what conditions you play under, if you win that championship, you win that championship.
Now, you do broadcasting for the Clippers. My team, I'm a Clipper fan, by the way. Are you a Clipper fan, or do you have to say that you're a Clipper fan?
I became a Clipper fan. I root for the Clippers. You know what? I don't have a team right now because I was a Knicks fan. As long as the owners of that team, still have that team, I'm not going to root for it. I just can't do it.
Okay, so since you work for the Clippers, I will officially adopt you as a true Clipper fan, even though you just root for them from a distance. You are now a Clipper fan. Mm-hmm. Are you going to Orlando since you do their broadcast?
No, I'm not because because the broadcasters got to be quarantined too when they go. So it's like, if you go inside that bubble, you ain't going outside that bubble until after the postseason. So, and then plus I'm on Foxhole now. So I was only doing the Clippers broadcast on the weekends because of Foxhole. My show comes on at night on Monday through Friday. So I wasn't able to do both. But yeah, I mean, if I wasn't, I probably would still turn it down, man, because I don't think I could I've been in quarantine in my house for the last 3 months. I don't want to go to Orlando and then be stuck in quarantine without my family members around. It's one thing to get along with some of the players, but the players kind of have their own little pack and their bond or whatever. And coaches have their own little pack and their bond. Media members would basically be by themselves. And frankly, I don't like a lot of media members, to be honest with you. So I don't know if I want to kind of hang with them in the bubble. And so it'll be depressing and be almost like going to jail again.
Even with the idea that the Clippers are one of the favorites, so you would miss out on a possible first run, Clipper championship run. You would miss out on that, and that doesn't appeal to you at all. Okay,
I'll take that chance. You know what I mean? I've covered a lot of championship teams in the past, from the Yankees and all these other teams and whatever, but not. So yeah, I'll take that chance, to be quite honest with you.
Now, Mike, there have been several WNBA athletes who have decided to not participate if the WNBA resumes in July. They want to remain focused on civil rights movements, on social reform, on amplifying issues that are important to the Black community. Renee Montgomery from the Atlanta Dream, Maya Moore, who's always been very actively active when it comes to criminal justice reform. And then most recently, Tasha Cloud of the Mystics, who was a Mystic starter back in 2019. Do you think that can you do both? Like, do you have to forego your season to focus on change? Or can you be a professional athlete and still affect change drastically while you're in season?
I think that's a good question, and the conundrum that actually the NBA players have right now, with Kyrie Irving bringing up what he brought up and Dwight Howard bringing up what he brought up as well. I think you can do it both ways. I do admire the ones that sacrifice their seasons, or some of them like Maya hadn't played in a couple of years right now. And I just look at what she's doing when it comes to criminal reform and doing it for a friend of hers, whatnot, getting him out of prison, and others who are doing that. As a matter of fact, on Foxhole tonight, we're actually talking about prison reform, trying to get people out of prison. So we're using our platforms, doing it that way. But if they feel like they want to put the focus and their energy and give 100% effort in helping certain things out, I can understand why athletes are doing that, because mental distractions can affect you on the court, right? Mm-hmm. So if you want to give 100% of your effort to something that you feel really passionate about, once again, I admire them. But if you just want to bring attention to something, I think sometimes if you're not working on a particular cause as an athlete, I think using your platform and bringing attention to it that way will always help it a little bit better, because you're getting more of the shine. Like Maya hasn't played in a while. So like cameras are following Maya everywhere she goes. She'll a story, a feature pop up every now and then, an article, whatever. But if she's playing in every interview, she's got something that basically says something that reminds people of this is what I'm working on, then that's more of a platform. And I think the message gets out a little bit more. So you can still do both. Once again, if you want to focus on it, you mentally, exhausted from it, I get it. But I think using your platform, I think NBA players should demand that the commissioner, the NBA, the league or whatever, that every network has something when it comes to Black Lives Matter or just police reform when it comes to this type of situation that we're going through right now.
Taking it back to how we don't have sports right now, the sports fan in me very selfishly wants to see teams get back, wants to see a full college football season. I'm a Georgia Bulldog, so it pains me inside to think that I won't have a full season. But what is your advice to people, fans, who are missing their sports fix? What is your advice to people to get through a sportsless year, still stay engaged?
You better get into the esports. I know esports is huge now. People are really talking about me like that's all. It's funny to see like NASCAR was doing it for a while, and maybe the NBA
did it
or whatever, and maybe when Madden, the whole Madden things, you'll see players playing or whatever. Nothing can replace the thrill of live sports. Nothing can replace the thrill, like especially college football games, being out there and the atmosphere, the band, the pageantry, the rivalries, everything that kind of goes into college athletics, in the NFL and the NBA during playoff time. Nothing can ever replace it. But, once again, there is so much more. There are so many more important things that's going on right now. Our health and the state of the world when it comes to race relations that, we should be focused on that. So that gives your mind something to think about right now. And yes, sports can be that distraction. I want to ask you a question.
What's up?
So Georgia.
Yes.
Your quarterback.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay.
Jesus.
Okay. I'm just. Okay.
Jake Fromm's text messages coming to light did not surprise me. And as sad as it is to say, Jake Fromm is one of the good guys. So it's so sad that if one of the good guys is making text messages like that, then that the bad guys are saying even more incendiary things.
But that's the whole thing. That's the point. It's like that's the mentality that for so many years that people felt like they can get away with that kind of rhetoric because that's the way they grew up. It's ignorance. A lot of it is just ignorance. They just don't know any better. Or they know some better, but they know better, but they know that, hey, you know what, if I say it, everybody else is saying it, I'll get away with it. So they become really comfortable. And then all of a sudden, people are digging now. Look at Jimmy Kimmel. People are going back 20 years and digging and finding things like, we saw him in blackface before. You knew he said the N-word on it. People were digging up your past. So once again, be careful what you said in the past. Be careful what you say now because it's going to come back to haunt you. And I tell my kids that all the time now. So just be careful what you put on social media.
I do think, to your point about digging up people's past, I'm not a full believer in the full cancel culture because I do think that we should be able to be given grace. I think that people should be able to learn from their mistakes. I think that people should be judged on their new, most recent patterns of behavior than what they did 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 times when they were 16 or even 19 or 20. I mean, I'm sure that if I look back at some of my voting records, I would be like, this is what I voted for.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up in the South and being a Baptist church girl and then moving to the West Coast and having a more progressive thought, I shudder to think the kinds of things that I voted for when I first moved to California. So I would hope that people don't subscribe so closely to the cancel culture and really give people grace to change and to learn and to have dialogue.
I think there's a difference between something you did 20 years ago and a pattern of continuing to do it. If it started 20 years ago and you have a pattern of continuously doing it over, you did something in 1992, then you did it again in 96, and then in 2000 and 2008, and it's the same thing, you're that person. If you did something back in 1996 and it was something that you did, something that you said or whatever, and it was part of that era when you could say things or you did things that you didn't even know was offensive
right
at the time, then maybe you should be given a pass because look, I understand we live in revisionist history type of world, and I could be getting in trouble just for saying something like this, but years ago when you referred to some people and it was totally wrong, so let me preface myself when it comes to that, when you were growing up and you grew up in a certain neighborhood, I grew up in a certain neighborhood, if somebody was gay, somebody would call them the F word.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know, you know what I mean? It was wrong. You knew it was like wrong. You grow up and you realize, man, that was wrong. But you was 15 years old. And that's your mentality because that's how you were raised around people like that. And unfortunately, you still got too many people who think like that ignorance, that don't want to grow, that don't
Mm-hmm.
want to learn. Those are the people that you should cancel because they don't want to get better. They don't want to understand and educate themselves. But if something that you said 30 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever, and all of a sudden somebody digs it up and says, oh, you know what? He used the F word when it came to somebody gay. That was at that particular time. Every comedian was using it.
Yep.
And everybody in your neighborhood was using it. You didn't know it. We just know that there's one word that you can never get away with.
Oh, Jesus.
And you ain't never got an excuse for that. That's one word.
Right.
And we know that word, yeah. Right? So there's no excuse for that. But once again, over a period of time, once we learn that, hey, you know what? You can't call them that. We got to understand revisionist history and give people sort of a pass as long as they've learned and they've grown from their mistakes.
We've now reached the time in the show where I like to call rapid fire. Big dog, a little dog, rapid fire. This is where I ask you a series of questions. I'm going to just reel them off super quickly. I'm timing you internally. You have to answer them as truthfully and as quickly as you can without giving it much thought.
Okay.
Oh, okay. You're up for the challenge.
I can do it.
Okay, here we go. If you could change one thing about your past, what would it be?
Cheating in my marriages.
In sports broadcasting, who has been your favorite colleague to work with?
Jay Harris.
What is the one area of your life or personality that you are constantly working to improve?
Patience.
Okay. Most memorable live sporting event?
Oh, wow. Live sporting event. Game 6 of the 2000 World Series when the Yankees beat the Mets.
Oh, okay. Guiltiest pleasure?
Peanut M&Ms.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Fill in the blank. It drives you crazy when Cynthia does.
Oh my gosh, a lot of stuff. But when she, I don't want to give away too much, but let me be mild. When she's too nice, I'll say it that way. When she's way too nice for some people that don't deserve her niceness, I'll say it that way.
You can only watch one sport for the rest of your life. What is it?
NFL.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
Advice you would give to your 30-year-old self?
Ooh, don't get married the second time. No, I shouldn't say that. Nah, I was 30. I was about to turn 30. Yeah, don't do it. No, but I got a great daughter out of that. What would I get? 30. Stay true to who you are. Never change.
Okay. Your top relationship deal breaker?
If you smoke.
Oh, yes. Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, what is the one thing on your bucket list that you are the most anxious to do?
I don't really have a bucket list, but I do want to travel to Europe, and I have not traveled to Europe yet. I've been in Asia or whatnot, but I've not ever been to Europe. But that is definitely on my bucket list.
Good job. I give you an A+. You really passed that with flying
Oh,
colors.
good. I like that. All right.
That was good. Now let's talk about this book, your memoir, Open Mic. It's available for pre-order now. It's officially available on the bookshelves in stores in August 2020. Tell me about Open Mic as much as you can.
Open Mic is, basically my memoirs. It became really my therapy. If I wouldn't have written this book in 2017, I wouldn't be here right now. That's the God honest truth. I tell people that all the time.
Wait, you wouldn't be here, meaning were you going through depression where you were suicidal, or you wouldn't be in your career?
I was dying on the inside. I was hurting. I had a cancer on the inside of me that was called depression, sadness, anxiety, fear, everything. On the outside, I had this facade. I put out this shell. I was always happy. I think when I met you back, I think I met you
in 2017, I think, in person for the first time.
Yeah. And at that time, I was probably going through somewhere. I was writing the book and it was coming out, but I was going through something that year where God told me, like, I had to write this book. I had to get it out of my system because people have been telling me for a long time to write your story because you have so many interesting things happen in your life, from, seeing domestic violence growing up, seeing your best friend be killed in a drive-by shooting, the things the ups and downs you've gone through in your career, your tumultuous marriages and whatnot, your father being a hitman, biological father not being there, your stepfather being a hitman, all these things people need to know about. I'm like, nobody wants to hear from me. I'm not a celebrity. Why would I write this book? But in 2017, God said, you need to write this book because, like I said, on the outside, smiling, happy, hanging out, dating, good job, doing all that type of stuff. But on the inside, man, I'm really crying all the time. And then when I started writing the book, it felt like a weight was being lifted off my shoulders. It felt like I was regurgitating. It felt like something was on the inside that was just pouring out of me, not through my mouth, but through my fingers. Every time I typed something, every time I dug up a memory that I had suppressed for so long, just thinking about my life, it made me realize this is the reason why this happened in my adult life. This is the reason why I could not love somebody. This is the reason why I couldn't trust people. This is the reason why I couldn't move up in my professional life, because I was holding myself back. So I had all these traumas and all this sadness and depression that I had just suppressed for so many years, because as Black men, you're told not to show your emotions. You're told to kind of just suppress it and just deal with it or whatnot. So when I started writing the book, I didn't even want to put it out. I just say, okay, this is good. I got this off my shoulder. I was feeling good about myself. I became a better person, but then I realized I needed that maintenance. And I realized that, even though I got that out of my system, I need to talk to somebody now to continue that maintenance or whatever. And that's what I've been doing ever since, is getting that type of therapy. So when I said I wasn't going to put it out, somebody said, no, you need to put this out because other people need to hear this story and other people need to understand what you've gone through. And basically, advocate for therapy, which I've been doing because, once again, as a Black person, we've always been told to suppress it. That's just life.
Or go to church and pray it away.
Pray it away, take it to Jesus, man up. And I feel, so many people want to man up, that if you continue to man up and you got all this stuff that you're suppressing on the inside, eventually it's going to be man down, because you're going to die, because eventually it's going to catch up to you. So I put this out there, show you my pain so that you can heal from yours. And that's basically what I'm doing.
Do you, did you start going to therapy for the first time in 2017 when you started writing the book, or had you gone to therapy before?
I've never gone to therapy before. I went to marriage counseling once or twice and I hated that, but I had never gone to therapy before. And so I wrote the book. And even after I wrote the book, I thought I was fine. But then I realized there were some things that I was like, man, I'm still not healed from a lot of stuff that I'm going through, whatnot. And so eventually I was like, you know what? I need to talk to somebody, because this is still catching up to me. And there are certain things that I get out of therapy. Every time I go to I got therapy every Friday. So every time I go to my therapy session, at the end, I'm like, okay, I've said all I need to say. I don't know if I need to come back next week, but then I come back next week and there's so much. I talk the entire hour. As you can tell, I talk a lot.
And this is good though. No, that's what therapy is for. Yes.
But I will talk the entire hour and I get things off my chest that I didn't realize was there. Like, I'll be honest with you, Father's Day was coming up. and I got emotional. And this Father's Day got really emotional because, you know, I've never had a father figure in my life. Like I said, my biological father was never around. My stepfather wasn't the greatest role model, even though he loved me and he cared for me or whatever. I think he was a good man, but he had issues, and he wasn't somebody I could learn from. And I didn't learn how to deal with life and the lessons that life teaches you as a man in this country. And nobody was there for me. My big brother didn't live with me. My cousins were never around or whatever. I learned from my grandmother and partly from my mom. And honestly, they couldn't teach me how to be a man. Man. You know, they did the best they could, but that hurt me. And it made me realize that, man, I got emotional because I'm like, nobody ever taught me how to do anything. And I feel like if I would have had a positive male role model in my life, then I would be so much further along than I am right now. I'm blessed to be where I am, but I can only imagine if I had that good role model in my life, or somebody that I could talk to and be my confidant. I just feel like, man, who knows where I could be, and I could be helping so many other people to kind of create that generational, not just wealth, but health for Black country and Black men in this country in particular.
I hear what you're saying as far as thinking about the what if, you know, what if my father had been there, and how would that have changed the trajectory of your life? But at the same time, you know, I think at least on the outside looking in, most people consider you to be successful. Definitely in a professional sense. I mean, I know we all have our own personal struggles, but professionally, you know, you look like you are achieving the sportscaster media personality's dream. So it's interesting that we have different perspectives of our own success, because I would have never looked at you and thought, oh yeah, Mike could be doing so much more. I mean, we all could be doing so much more, but I definitely respect what you have done. And then I was going to say, as a man who didn't have positive father figures in his life, do you find that you try to go above and beyond for your daughters?
I do. And I think that's been my main focus in my life. Is like, I've always told myself that no matter what, when I was a kid, that I was always, when I had kids, I was going to give them everything that they needed and most of what they wanted. And, you know, a lot of that time was, you know, just material things or whatever. Now I had to learn how to be a dad and realize that it's not the material things that matter. It's that time. It's that quality time that really matters the most and whatnot. So I had to learn how to even become a good father. So people see me on the outside. Once again, you talk about that perception or whatever. They see me and they see me with my kids. My kids look just like me or whatever. You know, we had to go through some growing pains too, because, you know, I wasn't with their mom after a while or whatnot. So there were some difficulties that we still go through, and that we still, you know, I'm being transparent about that because I want people to look at it and say, well, hey, he looks like this is great and this is great. You got a great fiance and y'all a perfect couple and you're the perfect father, whatever. No, far from it. I want to be transparent and let people know, man, I go through a lot. And there are a lot of things that I have so many imperfections and so many flaws that I'm still working through. So when people say, I want that, I'm like, are you willing to work to get what I have and go even further? And that's my thing. I'm willing to work to go even further in my relationship with my kids and with my fiance and with myself.
And with yourself, yeah.
You know, the effort that you got to put in or whatever. So, yeah, but when it came to my kids, I always kind of overcompensated. And sometimes it hurt me because when you deal, and I'm not going to put it on their moms or anything like that. I don't want to make any excuses.
Right.
When you know that a person loves their kids so much, sometimes you could be manipulated. You know that this person is going to do whatever it takes, no matter what. And I can use this child as a weapon sometimes to get what I want. And it worked because I would do anything for my children and for the longest time. But then when they became a certain age, I'm like, hey, I have a relationship with you. You know what I mean? And I respect your mom. Your mom always be, you know, I love them, all that type of stuff. But at the same time, my relationship with you is important. So we have to talk one-on-one. So there is no outside, you know, manipulation when it comes to that type of stuff, messing with their minds and affecting our relationship.
And I'm sure once we start reading the book, we'll get more into that. You reveal more of that in Open Mic. Yeah.
Yep. And, you know, like, and my thing is with Open Mic, I put the onus on me. I made a lot of mistakes. People have done things to me in the past and I didn't learn a lot, but that's why I'm being so transparent, open. It's like, even if there was something that happened to me that I felt like somebody else did to me, I always found, okay, well, what could I have done differently? And that's the way I wrote it. I was like, what did I learn from the situation, and what could I have done differently? And I don't want to put, you know, anybody else down, because even being fired in Dallas by a guy that was probably the most racist person I've ever worked with or whatnot. That was a life lesson that I had to go through that made me stronger to prepare me for everything that I'm dealing with right now. So, I'm thankful for the ups and downs in my careers and in my personal life.
Before I let you go, talk about Foxhole, because Foxhole is newer, right? It's a newer entity, part of the Fox broadcast family.
Yeah, so it's a new streaming service on Foxhole. I got a show on there called The Mike and Donnie Show that I co-host with a guy named Donnie Harrell. And we have a good time. We do barbershop talk. We talk about issues that affect us in the Black community, obviously from a male perspective and whatnot. Of course, we have ladies on the show. I got to get you on the show too as well to come on there and kind of give your perspective, hold it down for the ladies on that side of things. But we talk about things, like I said, tonight, we got talking about police reform. Last night, we was talking about just code switching.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is going to be changing now because people understand us a little bit better. You know how it is when you get on the phone, hey, how you doing? I'm Mike. You know what I mean? You got a code switch for some people. Now, are we allowed to keep our voices? And like, once again, police reform is something, and prison reform is something that's really huge for me that I really work for. So we're going to be talking to somebody that actually got 500 years in prison and for a small minor crime. And it's just like so messed up about that. So we're talking about that. But we talk about those type of issues, but we also have a lot of fun and just kind of keep it real and raw and entertaining. And Foxhole continues to grow. We just launched, I believe, in October, and already they're talking, we're going to have a cable channel by the end of the year. So I'm very thankful for that and blessed to have my own talk show, which has always been a lifelong dream of mine.
Well, it has been an honor to sit down with you. Please plug, in addition to Foxhole, where we can find you and how we can keep up with everything that you've got going on.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, it's Mike Hill, ITS Mike Hill. Only positive vibes. Don't come on there trolling. Don't come on hating because I will give you a tumble and block you. I promise you I will do that. I will definitely do that type. I'm not for the messing around right now. But that and once again, open mic, you can get that pre-sales, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, wherever books are sold, and check me out on Foxhole Monday through Friday. The times kind of vary, sometimes 7 to 8 o'clock Pacific time on Foxhole on foxhole.tv.
Officially a big dog, always a big dog in my book, but definitely a big dog in all of your books out there now. Thank you so much, Mike Hill.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. It's fun, Eric. Appreciate you.